students behind me, they represent about 160 students who come from 85 different schools that are here in Harrisburg today to talk about the importance of the FIA program to what they do. These kids represent half of all the students who will get a degree this year in Pennsylvania. 270,000 students altogether in these schools. They will produce 69% of our nurses, 45% of our teachers, 56% of all our STEM workers will come from schools that these students represent. Interestingly, they have, on average, been embedded in their communities for 139 years. Now that's what I call persistence. And I want to tell you a couple things about these kids before we introduce a few of them to speak. I want to tell you, first of all, how persistent they are. Secondly, how powerful they are. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, I want to talk to you a bit about their passion. They are certainly persistent, and I don't mean just that their schools have been around for 139 years. These students, and the students they represent, have the highest graduation rates in Pennsylvania of any of the 4 sectors of higher education. They have the fastest completion rates in Pennsylvania. They have the lowest default rates in Pennsylvania, and they have the best job placement rate. That's who they represent. When the Wall Street Journal a year ago ranked and picked what they thought were the 500 best colleges and universities in America, and they were looking at outcome-based criteria, Pennsylvania finished 3rd. We had 32 of our colleges and universities chosen. The top 10 are all represented behind me. 19 of the top 20 schools in America, according to the Wall Street Journal, are represented behind me. Of the 32 schools that they felt were among the best in America, 28 of them are independent, nonprofit institutions, part of our Association of Independent Colleges and Universities in Pennsylvania. So they are persistent and they get the job done. The second word I mentioned was powerful. And this might be something that the students don't think about themselves, but I want you to know about what the contributions they make and their schools make to this Commonwealth. These schools, these students, represent $29 billion in annual contributions to Pennsylvania's gross domestic product. Just to put that in context, the entire state budget is not quite twice that. $29 billion that's generated for this economy because of what happens at those institutions. There's 195,000 plus people making family-sustaining wages that are supported by these 85 institutions. I used to be a Secretary of Labor and Industry in Pennsylvania. We counted that kind of data. That's the 5th largest industrial employment sector in this state, higher education, and the biggest contributor to it, but represented by the kids behind us. The people who work at these schools, these are nonprofit institutions. They're not businesses. They're not out to make a profit, but they still pay taxes. The people who work at these schools pay $1.5 billion in state and local taxes, every single year. Think about that for a moment. The college at which I was president, our college was the tax base for that little town. We were the property tax base for that school district. We were the reason that we had law enforcement in that community. Our people helped keep those lights on and make sure the community center stayed open. And there's 84 other stories just like that behind me. They put more value into those communities every single year simply by virtue of their existence. So they're very powerful in ways that you might not have thought about before. Lastly, and from my perspective, maybe most importantly, this is a very passionate group. They care deeply about education. That's why they came all the way here from all corners of this Commonwealth today. They have some very powerful stories that they will tell with passion. Many of these students are the first generation in their families to go to college, as I was. Many of these students depend on grants from the FIA program to be able to get through college. And I would not have had that opportunity except for programs like FIA. 47% of all the students in Pennsylvania who receive FIA grants go to these institutions and are only able to go to these institutions because of these FIA grants. 52% of all the adult students in Pennsylvania, people who have to reskill themselves, go to these institutions. 54% of all the students of color in Pennsylvania are in these institutions. And they're able to get their education in part because of grants made possible by the FIA program. But these students are passionate in another way. They are passionate about community. They donate over 5 million hours of volunteer time every year, some of that time in all 67 counties in this state. The little school that I was at had 1,200 students. Those kids did over 28,000 hours of volunteer work every year on over 500 different projects over a 7-county area with 414 different nonprofit partners. So they're passionate about their education, they're passionate about their personal stories, and they are passionate about the communities in which they thrive. Before I introduce the students, I want to say one more word about the 4th P. So we've talked about persistence, we've talked about power, we've talked about passion. The 4th P is the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, FIA, just an acronym. But it is an acronym that over 60 years has made it possible for generations of families to cross that socioeconomic divide as mine did, and as many of these families will. And it has done that in a uniquely bipartisan way. The board of FIA has 8 Democrats and 8 Republicans. It has 8 members of the House and 8 members of the Senate, and it has 4 representatives of the governor. And it has been that way for the whole 60 years. And they sit together, unlike many other areas of government, and they decide together what we're going to do. And that's why this program has been so successful in Pennsylvania. Let me stop with those remarks. Hope you are impressed by these persistent, powerful, and passionate young people behind me. And I'm going to ask 3 of them if they will come up and make some remarks today for your benefit. First, I'm going to invite Olivia Fabiano. Olivia is from Elizabethtown College, very nearby. She and her colleagues from Elizabethtown were here at about 4:30 this morning. If you check channel 27, I think, tonight, WGAL, you will see them being interviewed, 4 of them, and my spies tell me they did a great job. Olivia, let me invite you to the mic for a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivia Fabiano, and I am a senior integrated studies major with a concentration in psychology and marketing from Elizabethtown College. I'm here today because of 2 things that have shaped my future: financial aid and the power of an independent, nonprofit education. Growing up, my parents always emphasized the value of education. As many of you know, quality education often comes with a price. That's why programs like the PA State Grant and the Ready to Succeed Scholarship are so important. They ensure that financial circumstances don't limit a student's potential. Attending an independent nonprofit school has given me opportunities I never imagined. Small class sizes, dedicated teachers, and hands-on learning experiences have shaped me into the person I am today. I've been able to conduct an independent research project on social media marketing. I've studied abroad in southern Italy, as well as I've received individualized support that helped me grow, not just academically, but personally. I have the privilege to be very involved on campus, from having 2 jobs to being the captain of our dance team. Independent education isn't just about academics, it's about teaching students to think critically, to lead, and to chase their dreams with confidence. However, none of this would have been possible without financial aid. These programs help students like me attend the schools that best fit our goals without being held back by financial barriers. They don't just invest in education, they invest in future leaders, innovators, and change makers. Without this support, many talented students would be forced to choose between financial stability and their dreams. Education should never be a privilege reserved for a few. It should be an opportunity for all. Independent schools nurture potential, challenge students, and prepare them for success. Financial aid ensures that every student, regardless of their background, has a fair chance at the education that they deserve. So, whether you're a student, educator, policymaker, or supporter of education, remember this. When we invest in education, we invest in a brighter, stronger future for everybody. And most importantly, every student deserves the chance to reach their full potential. Thank you.
I think this is about the 10th hour of her day, and she's just as good as she was in the first hour. I hope you heard two things there. One, besides all her activities at school, she has two jobs. That's a very common story for a lot of these kids behind us. The FIA grant is great, doesn't always keep pace with inflation. She has two jobs to make that happen. And I hope you heard one other thing in Olivia's remarks. She mentioned the direct grant program. That is the largest FIA program. That is what most of the kids get. But there is a program called Ready to Succeed, which helps people and families at a little bit higher income level. Very important program. And there's a brand new program called Grow Pennsylvania, which was just adopted this year. There are other programs that FIA runs, but I think these are the three big ones, and I'm so glad that Olivia mentioned them, because they're all important to the future success of these students. I now want to ask Dustin McMullen. Dustin is coming to us from Seton Hill University, but he's a twofer. He's not only at Seton Hill, he is enrolled in the program they have with Lycoming, which is a medical school based in northwestern Pennsylvania, from which he will graduate ultimately as an anesthesiologist. Dustin, the mic is yours.
Hello, my name is Dustin McMullen, and I am a third-year student at Seton Hill University in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I received my diploma from Rocky Grove High School, a school that graduates less than 60 students a year. Needless to say, I grew to like a personalized learning experience, a strong sense of community, and most importantly, the feeling of not just being a number. These feelings helped to direct me to the university that I now call home. Seton Hill University is a small liberal arts institution serving approximately 2,000 students through a variety of programs, including traditional and adult bachelor's degrees, as well as graduate and doctoral programs. In both of my small school experiences, I have found that state funding is essential in making education accessible, providing students like me with opportunities we might not otherwise have, and allowing institutions to continue offering quality programs and support. I am a first-generation college student and benefit from state grants like FIA and Ready to Succeed. At my campus, I am blessed to have the ability to be involved in positions such as resident assistant, student government association president, track and field athlete, and so much more. I also get the chance to be part of the academic program that only a very small number of universities offer. This program gives me the opportunity to have a seat in Lycoming's medical school waiting for me as soon as I finish my undergraduate studies. Both Seton Hill University and Lycoming are members of AICUP and are giving me the opportunity to someday fulfill my dreams of becoming an anesthesiologist. Without the grants and scholarships I've received from the state and my small university, continuing my passion for medicine at a top independent institution would not be possible. Programs like FIA and Ready to Succeed are the reason I can stay at my school and have the opportunity to speak on its behalf today. I stand here today and I urge policymakers and stakeholders to continue investing in programs like FIA and Ready to Succeed. This will help to ensure that all students, regardless of financial background, have access to the life-changing opportunities that these AICUP institutions provide. Thank you for allowing me to share my story and advocate for the continued support of students like me.
Thank you, Dustin. You just heard another example. Did you hear all the activities that he's involved in, which is very typical of all of these students who are behind me. And I hope you heard one other thing. You know, this guy is on his way to becoming a doctor. That's his dream. The reason he's able to do that is because of a unique relationship between Seton Hill and Lycoming. We call those in this business articulation agreements. So one institution will do an articulation agreement with another one so that you can have a seamless transfer to your ultimate goal. We have literally hundreds of those among our 85 institutions that make those transitions as seamless as possible and begin preparing people not at the end of their of their college career, but at the very beginning. And Dustin is a great example of that. Thank you for being so articulate. Our last speaker is here on his return engagement. His professor told me that he's now spoken in the Capitol twice as much as she's ever had the opportunity to do that. Deshaun Sheffield from Lafayette College was with us last year. This is a competition. We have students submit these speeches, and then Tony, our communications guy, decides which are the best. Well, Deshaun was one of the best 2 years in a row. I'm sure that you'll be just as impressed this year as I was last year. Sean?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deshaun Sheffield, and I'm a sophomore at Lafayette College, majoring in government law or political science. I'm honored to be here again, advocating for the vital programs that make higher education accessible for students like me, students like Olivia, and students like Dyson. Last year, I stood before you as a first-year student, sharing how the PA State Grant Ready to Succeed scholarships transformed my educational journey. Growing up in a low-income community and also being a first-gen student, college felt like an impossible dream. But thanks to these programs, I've been able to pursue my degree without the overwhelming financial burden that holds so many students back. These grants do not just fund education, they fuel opportunity, ambition, and success. Since last year's AICUP event, my commitment to advocacy has only deepened. At Lafayette, I've worked on initiatives that promote educational equity, including my role as an Open Educational Resource Fellow, where I help develop accessible learning resources, and as a CITOS Fellow, where I support inclusive teaching strategies. I've also had the privilege of interning with the Lehigh Valley Justice Institute, researching policies that impact reentry programs for formerly incarcerated individuals. Each of these experiences have reinforced the idea that education is not just a personal achievement, it is a tool for societal change. AICUP Day on the Hill isn't just about funding. It's about ensuring that every student, regardless of their background, has the chance to reach their full and ultimate potential. Last year, I was inspired by the power of student voices in shaping policy, but this year, I return with an even stronger commitment to advocating for these essential programs. I urge legislators to continue investing in Pennsylvania students because when we support education, we invest in the future of our communities and our state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deshaun. Just as passionate, just as personal as last year. Thank you so much. I mentioned at the start that this program is a result of 6 decades of cooperation between the executive branch and the legislative branch, between the House and the Senate, between the Democrats and the Republicans. They've served in equal numbers on this board. That is why FIA has thrived for so long. Deshaun mentioned the word potential in his remarks. The reality is that without a vibrant FIA program, direct grants, ready to succeed, teacher stipends, Grow Pennsylvania, that potential may not be realized. And that is critical for Pennsylvania. All the data makes it clear now. 70% of future jobs will require post-secondary education. That's up from 53% right now. That is a huge increase. We all know the reason why. We're living in an AI-generated world. I've had 4 different careers, 8 jobs in my life. My father had 1 job. These students are going to have 16 to 20 jobs. And the capacity to learn, the capacity to educate oneself as you move further in your career is what is happening for them at these institutions. Somebody once said that education, a school building, is really just 4 walls with tomorrow inside. Well, I think we just had 3 terrific examples of tomorrow in front of you. I hope you'll remember those words and know that there's another 100 examples standing right behind them. So let me thank all the teachers, all the faculty, all the presidents, all the trustees, and all of our legislators who make this program happen. Thanks for being with us today.